One of the most basic truths about getting better on the trumpet is that in order to improve, you need to attack your weaknesses. If you're not honest with yourself about what you struggle with, you're not going to be looking for solutions to these problems, and you're just going to be stuck doing the same thing over and over. But if your practice only consists of focusing on your weaknesses, that actually might not be the best thing for your trumpet playing. Let's say you are an extremely motivated trumpet player, you're willing to work hard, you're willing to put in the hours, and you're willing to dig in and attack your weaknesses because you know that's the only way to get better. So then pretty much most of your practice consists of trying to find things that you can't do very well and trying to improve upon those things. Maybe for you, flexibility is a weakness, and you find yourself trying to work on exercises that really challenge you and push your limits in terms of what you can do with flexibility. Or maybe the same thing with range. You have a certain threshold and you spend your time trying to break that threshold and break through to get more high notes out of your trumpet playing. Because you're constantly pushing your limits, a mental space that you might regularly be in is thinking, I can't do this skill, or I'm not very good at this skill. How can I improve? If we just take a second to think about that mindset, think about after hours and hours of practicing, day after day, week after week, month after month, you're living in this space of, I can't do this, or I'm bad at this. How do I improve? What do you think that would do to your mental state and what you believe about yourself? You probably would begin to think that what defines you is, I can't do this and I'm working on getting better, or I'm bad at this and I'm working at getting better, or simply put, I can't do this or I'm bad at this, whatever those things are. So let's follow the logical conclusion of someone who sees themselves as not being very good at certain things on the trumpet and trying to get better. Likely this person's not going to have a lot of confidence when they perform because they're focusing on all the things that they don't like about their playing and the things that they wish were better. It could also affect your practice sessions where instead of being creative and digging in and finding interesting ways to solve problems, because you're so focused on what you can't do, it kind of sucks the joy out of the process of practicing. I mean, who really wants to practice a lot when everything is so hard? Worse yet, focusing on your weaknesses all the time over a long period of time is kind of a recipe for burnout for some people. Maybe you identify with that story I'm kind of painting, and maybe you think to yourself, well, I know it's important to attack my weaknesses, but if I'm not supposed to do it that way, what's a better way to attack my weaknesses? My answer to this question would be to change the question. Instead of thinking, what am I bad at? Or what can't I do right now and how do I improve? Instead, ask yourself the question, what am I doing right? And how can I do more of that? Let's think about this for a second. Not everything that happens in our performances or in our practice sessions are all bad. In fact, there's probably a lot of really positive, good things that are happening. We just tend not to focus on them. So what would be the effect of thinking about what we are good at and how do we do more of that? Well, we'd likely feel better about our playing overall because even though we could say there are things we want to improve upon, there are good things happening. There are positive things happening in our practice session, and that's something to be happy about. Focusing on what you're good at can also provide solutions for things you're struggling with. Let's say you're having trouble with range on the trumpet and you identify that the reason why, or one of the reasons why, is that there's excess tension when you play. You're thinking this is not good. Instead of just hammering that over and over, you could take a second and think, well, when I play the trumpet and things are good, things are easy, what is going on there? And how can I bring some of that ease and some of that good into the upper register? This is why long tones are so important to me as a trumpet player. In a perfect world, everything would feel as easy as a long tone or a flow study if you like to do long tones in that way. And this is precisely why we play them. We find a level of ease and flow with these basic exercises, and then we're trying to bring some of that ease into the more difficult music to be able to find more success. Focusing on your strengths in your playing and constantly reinforcing those would make it so that you would play with great habits more often, which over the long run will mean that instead of being burnt out because you're constantly focusing on what you can't do, in some sense, you actually have no idea what you'll be capable of in the long run because you're always going to be reinforcing great habits, good playing. This will compound over time. And I said, you just don't know where you could possibly end up. If you want to take this question seriously and incorporate it into your practice session, I recommend getting a journal and writing down a lot of the things you did well, or maybe all of the things you feel like you did well in your practice session. Maybe you had a great sound for a lot of it, or you nailed some passage that was really difficult, or maybe your upper register felt super easy on that day. Then I want you to try to write in your journal and identify what things were happening that made it so you were successful. When you played with a beautiful sound, maybe it's because you took a breath that had no tension and you didn't force anything when the sound came out. Or maybe for your passage, you were really focused in on the right things that would make it so your air would be connected. Or for the upper register, maybe you just had a lot of support in your corners and the air was flowing freely. Whatever those things are, writing them down regularly means that you're gonna have a better chance of understanding how you did them, which is going to give you the best possible chance of recreating that success on a regular basis. Then, when you inevitably come across something that you struggle with, you can look back into your journal and identify, here are things that I do well, and I'm gonna be able to do those things in these passages that I struggle with. This is gonna help you frame problems in a completely different way, and ultimately, it's gonna help you feel more empowered and confident as a performer. I mentioned ease of playing in the upper register earlier, and I know that's something that a lot of players struggle with. If you want to know my thoughts on how to develop a better upper register, go ahead and click the video on the screen. We'll see you in the next video.